Can we get Kristen from the Victory Press up first, please?
Sure. Hi, Jayna. I have a couple questions if I can, but first up, my sense is that initially there was a hope that, if the pandemic calmed down a little, then things got under control, that the 2021 half of the season might be able to look a little bit more like you had initially intended. So I'm wondering at what point it became clear that you were going to have to pivot and change your plans a little bit to work with what was possible to do under the circumstances, and what the timeline sort of was for pulling these events together.
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, because this whole season, really since the end of last season, we finished up in March and right before the pandemic hit. And really since then, we've been flexible, we've been pivoting, we've been adaptable, we've been throwing multiple ideas around the table, how we could get our players back in a safe way. Early in the season, we were really hopeful that come February or March of 2021, we could get all of our players on a tour together. I would say by October, November, we realized that was really unrealistic. The health and safety of our players has always been number one. So we pivoted at that point to more of a domestic style tour, knowing that crossing borders was going to be challenging. And then we've gone with that route. Canada has proved to be extremely challenging to date to host any events, but we have some thoughts, we have some ideas. We're hoping to be able to pull something together here in Canada, but we couldn't be happier to be cheering on our US players and seeing the success of a game like tonight in New York City.
All right, and then on a bit more of a personal note, I mean, usually with these events, you're on site running around a little bit. The experience of watching the TV broadcast, I'm guessing you had a little bit more time to soak things in as well. Sort of what was that like for you compared to your usual experience at these events?
Well, I was excited all day. It reminded me of when I was a player, getting ready for the game. I would say tonight I was able to sit down and watch the game more than I would have had I been on site, most likely, because things were sort of out of my control by that point. So I really enjoyed watching the game. I was so excited for our players. When Billie Jean King spoke, I had goosebumps sitting on my couch here in Canada, listening to her words. And it was just such a special night. I'm so happy for our players who have been through so much, who haven't played a game in a year, to be able to be in this environment, play the first ever women's professional hockey game at Madison Square Garden on television. It was just so exciting. And I'm just so happy for them. They've put in so much work. There's been so much time and work put in from our team behind the scenes, the people that don't get any recognition. And I'm thrilled for our organization, but especially for the players who got to play there tonight.
Can we get Meg from The Athletic next, please?
Hi there. I was hoping that you could maybe talk through what your biggest takeaway in terms of people who might have been tuning in tonight for the first time to the PWHPA. What are you hoping that they saw in terms of quality of the product, in terms of tuning into the next one, right? Like, how do you build off of the momentum of a game at Madison Square Garden?
Well, I think the significance of that was that there was a lot of people that probably saw the game tonight that have not seen the women's game maybe ever on television, maybe haven't seen these players not playing with their national teams and realize that they play in games like this throughout the season. To see the performance of our players tonight, although they haven't been playing a lot of games, not even practicing together, many of them, it was a fabulous game to watch. There was highlight goals that I would assume we will see on the highlights for the next 24 hours. The skill and the talent was just so evident. So, I hope people looked at tonight and thought, this is what professional women's hockey should look like in an arena like this, on television like this, with first-class broadcasters. The opportunity for no matter where you are, hopefully you had an opportunity to see the game. It was visible. And, watching the press conference, I've been in here since the beginning, and to be able to have our players, I would hope everyone in the room agreed. They're incredible people. They're incredible ambassadors, role models. Every time they speak, I'm so proud to work alongside all of them. And a platform like the New York Rangers, Madison Square Garden, it's an opportunity for these players to shine, for people to see them, and we don't get to see them enough. So, I hope a number of people saw the game tonight, saw how talented these women are, and will follow them because they're worth it.
Thank you so much.
Alex from NBC Sports, please.
Hey there, Jayna. A couple questions, if that's okay. First, curious if you could share any information about the type of money that will go into the prize pot and what players will be getting at the conclusion of it.
Yeah, we haven't disclosed the prize pots, a number of reasons. We're still unsure how many events we're actually going to have this year in the US. So, we have 2 on the calendar, but we're certainly hoping to have more. So we haven't determined what that pot is yet. But, as all of you know, when it was announced, Secret made $1 million commitment to the PWHPA, and a lot of that goes to player pots. And additionally, there's other marketing resources and operational costs that help, that money goes towards. So we might be able to share a bit more down the road when we know how many events we have. But, for tonight, it's really, those prize pots are great. And it's a really great start for our athletes to be able to have the incentive to win some money. But, I think all the players would even agree what happened tonight was so much bigger than any of that.
And then just one more, if that's okay. I don't think it quite made the broadcast. I heard the tail end of it, but a land acknowledgement at the beginning, which I know is something that a lot of Indigenous leaders have been asking for of sports leagues across the country, and not something that many sports leagues have done. Can you talk a little bit about how the PWHPA decided to do a land acknowledgement before the game?
Sure. We, back at the beginning of the season, we committed ourselves to help educate our players. As a players association, we try to give our players a lot of different tools. And one of those things we wanted to offer was anti-racism sessions. And we started that in September. We've done them monthly ever since. And coming out of some of those sessions, we as a group and, suggested, coming from the players, said this is something we would like to do as an association. So we reached out to an artist, an Indigenous artist, to create something for our players that would acknowledge that. And, it's another thing I'm very proud of our players. It came from the players. It's something they wanted to do. And we're committed to learning. And we know we're far from perfect in many ways, but we're committed to learning, to being better. We're committed to, equity and inclusion in our sport. And this is one small little piece that hopefully, shows people that we're trying to learn.
Could we get Carol from the New York Times, please?
Thank you. Jayna, first I want to congratulate you and the team on such a wonderful pair of events this weekend. Good job on pulling everything off. How special was it to have that opening speech from Billie Jean King? And then for you watching on the broadcast, just like the rest of us, for her to have had more of an opportunity to explain and expound on what the PHWPA is all about for people that might not know as much about it.
It's amazing. And you heard a few of the women speak, and I know Kendall mentioned it. Billie Jean King and Alana Kloss have been so important and really a foundation to everything we're doing. They've been there. They've fought this fight for years and years. Their confidence in us, their leadership, encouragement at times when it hasn't been easy has been so important. And, when Billie Jean King speaks, the place goes silent. And I think I felt that in my own home. And I think we saw that across the country. I've seen a number of things on social media, people, quoting her words, and they're powerful. And they're powerful because she's been there. And as I said earlier, I had chills sitting on my couch watching her speak because, she speaks, it's the truth. Again, she's been there. And the idea that this moment was so important, and seeing the emotion on our players' faces, even through the television, was so clear. And it really made the night much more special to have Billie Jean King there. And she's an icon, she's a legend. And, there's not much more you can say than that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Justin Levine from the Puck Authority, please.
Hi, Jayna. Thank you so much for doing this tonight. Really appreciate it. So my question for you, again, we've seen the success of this weekend. We've seen the success of tours past from last year and all these different stops. So let's say something for Canada does end up working out and coming together, even if it's, just a couple of stops. What might that look like in terms of cities? Would you be limited to just one city and one big thing, or, do you have a certain idea at this point?
Yeah, I mean, everything's on the table. Our initial goal was to do multiple events similar to what we would have seen last season, where we go to a few cities. We've also thrown around the idea of a single location, a little bit longer event. We don't have a location identified. Obviously, here in Canada, the restrictions are tough and they're different from province to province. So we're looking to areas that we could execute something in a safe manner. So there's lots of conversations happening, lots of, I think they're positive conversations, but at the same time, if we've learned anything through this, it's sort of day by day and things are changing all the time. So all I can say, and this is what I've told our players, is to trust that we are doing everything we can to figure out a solution to, or for our players in Canada. And, hopefully we'll be able to do that. But first and foremost, the health and safety of our athletes is always going to lead our decisions.
And if I can ask one more, I'd like to hear from you, 'cause all the Canadian players, 75 plus, are sitting at home just like you, watching it tonight and wanting to play. So what is it like to both see and hear the support from those players of the great job that you've done to be able to pull this off for the American side? And especially given that you've already given that platform to them last year. And I just want to, hear from you what that has been like.
Well, I mean, we're an association that is very clearly, it doesn't have borders, and we've been like that since day one. So the success of any one of us is the success of our group. So I know the Canadian players, as much as they want to be on the ice and as frustrated as they are that in some of our locations, they can't even practice right now. They're so happy for these women who got to do this tonight. And when they hit the ice, doesn't matter which player of our 125, they wear the PWHPA logo on their chest. So, we don't worry about borders within our association. We do what we think is best for the women's game, and we try to move it forward. And we're as strong as a group, and I think united in a way that gives us our greatest strength. So I was happy to see so much support from our Canadian players tonight. And I know they were all tuning in, watching, and definitely wishing they were out there, but cheering on their teammates and friends and rivals.
Thank you, Jayna.
Thanks.
Okay, last two questions here. So we're going to get Erica up first, please.
Thank you so much, Jayna. And actually, thank you to Alex for a question that you asked about land, and Jayna for your answer to that and acknowledging the Indigenous land. But kind of similarly to that, there's been a conversation that has penetrated women's sports and including women's hockey regarding sponsorships and the types of sponsorships that women's sports should consider and maybe that they shouldn't. And I don't mean to be cryptic. I'm just choosing my words carefully for a reason to protect myself, if I'm being honest. But personally, anyway, I wonder if given the conversations that I know the PWHPA is having about inclusion and the Get Uncomfortable campaign and anti-racism, how much if at all, have conversations about strategic partnerships from that perspective come into some of those conversations? And is that something that you think the PWHPA moving forward will consider? How a sponsorship might make the work of anti-racism a little more difficult?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question. It's certainly that's come to light in the last little bit here. And have there been discussions? Yes, absolutely there have. But I would say that, as the PWHPA, any official partners we have, we try to do our due diligence and try to ensure that we share the values they do, and our visions for the future align. And I can confidently say that the partners that we work with, everybody can check out our website and go look at them. We are comfortable with what we all believe in and moving forward. And, of course, we'll see what happens moving forward. I can't talk about the future, but for us, that's always been a priority, and we'll continue to make it a priority. And, you know, it can be challenging, certainly, because women's sport isn't supported enough, and there's not enough sponsorship and funding and investment. And so sometimes it can complicate that potentially. But, you know, for us, up until now, you know, we have tried to align with people that share our values, and that's something we'll continue to do.
Thank you very much, Jayna. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Erica.
Okay, last question, then we can let Jayna go. Ashley from Women's Hockey Life, please.
Hi, Jayna. There were so many young girls who witnessed this historic event tonight. What do you hope their takeaway is from this?
Simply that, you know, if these women can be at Madison Square Garden playing on national television across Canada and the United States, they can be too. So I hope that's number one. Number two, I hope that they know that our group, the PWHPA, is fighting for people like them. We're trying to create a future where those young girls won't have to decide what career they want to have in addition to playing hockey. Or we want to, you know, have a future where those young girls can be in leadership positions. They can be coaches, they can be scouts, they can work in PR and marketing for women's sports teams. And, you know, I think for me, this hit close to home. I have two young daughters, and, you know, my daughter was watching the game with me last night, and I could see her when, you know, some of the commercials came on, and many of the ads are very inspirational towards young girls, and I could see it in her eyes. And so ultimately, you know, long answer here, but I hope it gives them hope and confidence that the future for them in sport, there's going to be opportunities for them.
All right, thanks, Jayna. Thanks, everybody. We'll be sending post-game notes out shortly. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.